I will speak a little later, but I just want to say thank you all for being here. We will open it up. With Pedro Cruz, local Villa Victoria community leader, activist, all around amazing human being. Thank you so much, Pedro.
Hi, everybody. So first of all, for those that don't know me, my name is Pedro Cruz. I'm a longtime Villa Victoria resident, community activist, and youth worker. First of all, I just want to welcome Michelle and the team for coming. I've been super supportive of her since the first time we've met. I love just her, the human aspect that she has to her campaign, and that's what I want to keep pushing. She's part of the community. It doesn't feel like she's too far out. The message gets across and the conversations are genuine. So with that, I just want to welcome her and the team, and I want to ask for all the support from everybody that supports me. I represent a lot of votes, and everybody that's behind me is definitely going to be pushing you. So thank you very much, and welcome everybody. And thank you, Sonia Chang-Díaz, also for coming. I really do support everything you've been doing, also with the work, collaboration with Eva, and all the conversations we've shared. So thank you very much also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to recognize there are some elected officials and many, many leaders with us today. Clerk of Court Mike Donovan is here. Thank you so much for your support. State Representative Tommy Vitolo is here. Brookline Select Board Member Raul Fernandez is here. Friends and community leaders, we have some representation from the...
Shelby, later. Shelby, that's Shelby.
The representation from the New England Joint Board Unite here. Thank you for your support. We are also joined here by the incredible, amazing owners of Vejigantes, Merengue, Dona Habana, so many. Hector and Nivia Pina, thank you so much for your support. Many business owners here. I see Fadi Samaha from Nicole's Pizza and many, and grateful for him and his family. Okay, I won't go around the entire space, but thank you everyone. So now I get to pass it to the star of today, someone I'm so excited, grateful, humbled to be standing with today and in her fights for many, many years. State Senator Sonia Chang-Díaz.
Gracias. Buenos días todos. Buenos días. Good morning. I'm here with a very simple message. I'm Sonia Chang-Díaz and I endorse this mayor. In all earnestness, my name is Sonia Chang-Díaz, and I am extraordinarily proud to represent a huge swath of the city of Boston. Some of the residents of this city that are most in need of action and partnership from their government. Anybody who has watched me for the past decade on Beacon Hill knows that I have little patience for people who talk a big game but who aren't about delivering. Because the people that I represent ain't got time for that. In the 12 years of change making that I've been doing on Beacon Hill, I have also seen for sure that when we start out by asking ourselves what's politically feasible, rather than what will actually solve problems, we negotiate against our own constituents. Constituents who have been told for too long to wait for real change. I want vision and delivery in my candidates. I want ambition and practicality. And you know what? It is a status quo preserving lie that we cannot have both and that we have to choose between those two things. We've got both right here. Michelle Wu is someone who can connect with all communities across the city and build the multicultural, multilingual, multigenerational, multiracial coalition that we need in this city. Michelle Wu is a leader who has delivered paid family leave for city employees. She delivered community choice energy. You can give it up for that. She has already changed the field of debate when it comes to fair, free transit. I know that Michelle will be able to work with all levels of government to get things done because she has already been doing it. I have seen her in the trenches. We need somebody who will fight to take on the issues that we face.
Show me!
That's right.
Show me!
We need somebody who is going to look at the housing crisis and a need for a strong transit network and ask herself not just, what can I notch a political win on this year, but how are we going to actually fix it? She has got the vision and the delivery, the practical know-how and the grit, and the ambition to take on big systems. I am proud to endorse her today. Ladies and gentlemen, the next mayor, my mayor of the city of Boston in this coming fall, in this November election, Michelle Wu. Give it up.
Thank you so much, Senator. I am humbled every day to see our coalition, our movement growing every single day. Conversation by conversation, hour by hour, we are continuing to prove and push for more being possible in Boston. And I just want to start with a little recognition, a little homage to the place that we are standing right now. I'm lucky to be connected to this community for several years through being a neighbor when I first lived in Boston in the South End, pretty close to across the street. My very first campaign in 2013 launched at the Villa Victoria Center for the Arts in April that year. I'm grateful to have been a tiny part of serving alongside community leaders who fought for Boston to be the very first city in the country to recognize the contributions of Puerto Rican veterans with the monument, the plaza that is just down the street. Today, and for the years that I have been able to be standing alongside and fighting with and for this incredible community, we are just building on the legacy of those who put these bricks here. A community that has always stood for believing that more is possible, then fighting for exactly what we need and deserve. A housing, development, and community where people said it would be impossible to get affordable housing right here. We should not even try to keep residents in their home and in their culture and connected to this part of the city. What could we possibly do when the cranes are coming, the highways are going to tear through, and the decisions have already been made by those in power, shut behind those doors in City Hall and in the state government? But people came together, pushed for that vision of what's possible, and organized day by day, hour by hour, month by month, until we saw a legacy created, built, that will last for generations. I want to thank everyone who's been part of the fight to ensure that the legacy of Villa Victoria continues. IBA, Inquilinos Boricuas en Acción, has been continuing to push for and secure more affordable housing in the community, more opportunities, a youth program that continues to inspire and connect our leaders in the next generation of this city. I am running for mayor to tackle the big challenges in Boston. I wake up every day thinking about that urgency as a mom with 2 kids who are in the public schools, as a caregiver for my mom who has struggled and lived with mental illness. We live the stakes of our policymaking, and each of the plans that our campaign and our movement has put out, every little detail in the plans that fits together comes from the lived experiences, the challenges, the urgency, and the dreams of our residents all across the city. When I talk about a Green New Deal, this starts with the very tangible. We can plant trees in the neighborhoods that are hottest in Boston. We know the difference that makes. 10 degrees difference in temperature between the leafiest parts of our city and communities of color. where asphalt reflects the heat and drives up those temperatures. We can change our water and sewer infrastructure to absorb the floods, the waters, the storms, the rain. And I want to thank, I saw Etta here somewhere. Oh. In my very first year on the city council, I think 8 or 9 months, maybe Etta, it took us working together as neighbors, organizing community, where I got to understand every little detail of Alley 521 and the sewer that runs beneath it. Because we were in a situation where this history of our city, the layers of changes in property and who owned what and which agency was in charge of what over time had made it so that when a sewer in one of our alleys in this neighborhood overflowed, city government was denying any part in needing to fix it. And we went through map by map at a research. And so the chance to understand from our pipes inside out the potential that we can make in city government to not just solve constituent issues and make sure that we are responding to the immediate needs, but to change the way this infrastructure fits together across our entire city. When we think about our schools and what's needed in this moment, there is a clear choice of where we're headed. Our school communities have been under intense pressure for 2 school years, headed into the 3rd school year now. And we have a choice of whether we continue to try to survive or we truly invest, believe in what's possible, work together across levels of government, and fight for the resources that each and every one of our young people needs in our buildings. I put forward a Green New Deal for Boston Public Schools, a rebuilding not just of our infrastructure, but of the community, the trust, the fabric of Boston Public Schools to be that launching pad for every single one of our families. When we talk about safety and security and public health, there is a clear choice in this race. We are coming out of a global pandemic that has exacerbated, exposed, deepened every racial disparity in this city. We have seen the injustices, the burdens that are put on Black and brown families through decades of policy making, breaking the trust of our communities with government. I am here to say that the city of Boston doesn't have to choose between safety for all and justice, ensuring that we are building that trust. The types of changes we are able to deliver in city government run through the contracts with the police union, run through how we respond to crisis, whether we serve residents in the ways that they need, ensuring we are responding with a public health-led, compassionate response that actually delivers the services we need, or we continue to over-criminalize, militarize our forces. This is a decision in this race about how we use our collective resources. Whether we are investing for the very urgent needs right now that will take us into the future that we need in future generations, or we continue to put Band-Aids on a broken system that falls squarely on the shoulders of communities like right here. There is a stark choice that Boston is facing in this election. We are choosing to run a campaign that is based on grassroots, based on organizing in every neighborhood, based on making sure that every single community, every single resident's voice is heard. And we can only do so if we first reject the frame, reject the fear that we can only have so much, that we can only continue to nibble around the edges of the status quo. More is possible in Boston. We have seen it throughout our history. This is the legacy of our city across the country and the world, and we will continue to meet this moment in our city, fighting for what we deserve, pushing for what is possible, because we have already done it. We have done it time and again throughout our history. We have done it in city government. I am proud to bring a track record of accomplishment, of results, that is based on coalition building and showing that we can do anything in Boston when we bring people together.
My name Shelby. What you want to do with veterans? Some veterans we down in the street, we homeless. What you want to do when you get it in that job?
This is the perfect example of how our policies have to be not only moving fast, but fitting together across all the different areas that we have power to move. A couple weeks ago, I was visiting Brighton Marine. The campus out in Brighton focused on veterans. 200 veterans living there, some formerly homeless, some seeking treatment, some seeking jobs. We know what works in Boston if you can make it and connect to the resources that we have. What our job is to make sure that we are taking down those barriers for every single community, for every single issue that we're working on. The models that we have in City Hall of breaking down the silos so that everybody is seen and heard and connected immediately, that is what we will do for veterans and also across the entire city. So the last thing I want to say is that it very much feels like a sprint right now. We are down to 40-some days to go until the November 2nd election, and we will be out knocking on doors, continuing to remind people of what's at stake in this election. But I don't want us just to lose sight of what comes beyond Election Day. November 2nd, of course, is a very, very important marker in where we're headed as a city. But the real work is about making sure that right now, in each one of these days, we continue to build the infrastructure, the civic engagement, the community building, so that we will all have a voice and a role in shaping our future to deliver changes in office. Finalmente, quiero dar gracias a toda la comunidad aquí, especialmente la comunidad Villa Victoria, que tiene la historia de nuestra ciudad, una legacia de activismo, de conectar a todas las comunidades, a cerrar las brechas de esta ciudad. Nuestra obligación, nuestra responsabilidad y oportunidad en este momento es tomar el futuro que es posible en esa ciudad. El futuro para todos los niños, el futuro para sus niños y sus niños, de cerrar las desigualdades, de conectar a todos a las oportunidades en esta ciudad, especialmente de liderar la historia de esta ciudad, la historia de Boston, es traer a todas las personas y crear una fundación para el futuro. Entonces, le pido su voto humildemente, pero más importante, le pido su colaboración para el trabajo, para ganar la lucha en todas las cuestiones, todas las luchas y sueños de nuestras comunidades. Gracias a todos. Thank you so much. Any questions from media? Voter registration happening right over here. Thank you, Ward 9.
So I know that obviously the two candidates left are the two non-black candidates, and the three black candidates are out of the race. So what are you going to do to attract black voters to your campaign?
I am so honored to be part of this moment in Boston and continuing to lift up the activism, the leadership, this historic field of candidates who will continue to each be a part of shaping the city and ensuring that we are filling our fullest potential. Each one of our plans, each one of the proposals that we have put out fights for racial justice to be at the center of every action that we take. And the next mayor of Boston must center Black and brown communities for this city to meet the moment. From transit justice to climate, housing, closing the racial wealth gap. We know that when communities of color receive resources and are centered, that the entire city of Boston advances. And I want to really break it down because I think one of the themes of today is really describing how the big, bold vision rests on details that city government is uniquely positioned to deliver on. And so when we talk about racial and economic justice, there is no clearer starting point than city contracting, an issue on which I've been proud to lead for several years, starting first in partnership with then Councilor Ayanna Pressley, as we wrote legislation, passed an ordinance that created the first set of accountability for how the city of Boston spends our taxpayer dollars. We have since subpoenaed the information, we have codified supplier diversity, and out of the $660 million plus that are spent every year, that should be investing, that is immediately actionable, that is immediately impactful. And when it comes to closing the racial wealth gap in Boston, one of the largest anywhere in the country, we know where to spend our city resources and levers of power as well. Home ownership and housing stability should be the foundation of our recovery from this pandemic. We are faced with a once-in-a-generation opportunity of federal funding coming down to the city of Boston, state government as a partner in making sure that we are moving as quickly as possible. Now is the time to use every lever of government to build more affordable housing, to stabilize our families in their homes, and to boost home ownership, especially in Black and brown communities. Thank you. What's your name? Tasha. Thank you, Tasha, for your question and for being here. As a mom, I will do whatever it takes to make sure that our streets are safe all throughout Boston. And we've even continued to see, just in the last few days and weekends, the trauma of violence in our communities and the impacts that ripple out from there. We need city resources and leadership, not just to continue coming in after a situation has happened and doing what we can. We must do better still on addressing trauma in our communities, but we need to get down to root causes. We need to put the money where it has an impact, and that is in ensuring that we have housing for our residents, that we have jobs that are available directly, that we are investing in connecting our young people to opportunity and safe spaces for recreation and celebration, and that we are thinking of public safety and public health as one and the same. In many parts of our city, the majority of calls that come into our police department are for situations that our officers are not trained or equipped to respond to, ideally, and that are introducing risk when armed law enforcement go in. And so I have been leading the way on the council, ensuring that we are putting our money to a public health-led crisis response system. I live with my mom, who has gone through various periods of intensity in her mental health challenges. I have stood with her outside in the depths of an episode of psychosis when the police were called by others, standing in fear next to her. What could happen if this goes the wrong way in just a split second? Begging for her to be taken to the hospital instead of the police station. Far too many of our residents are struggling with mental illness that without resources connected in to support that. And then when the response doubles down on the trauma, we are set back even further as a community. We have the resources sitting in this mecca of healthcare, of resources, of ideas, of activism. We just can't be afraid to fight for the changes that we need.
We have one more question from the press.
What is the significance of this community to you, and why hold the event here today?
This community represents what is possible in Boston. It reminds us every day of what is possible in Boston when we believe in our city, when we fight for our communities, and we make sure that we keep at it until it gets done. We are standing in the hot spot of activism. If you think about the last couple years in Boston, so many of some of our anchor social justice institutions all celebrated their 50th anniversary just in the last 2 or 3 years, including IBA, including Lawyers Committee, Lawyers for Civil Rights, I think including the Urban League as well, Zoomix, Urban League. We are reminded at this point in our history, just about 5 decades later, not only what is possible when people come together, but the legacy that they leave for generations in building institutions and building community, especially when we connect all of this activism throughout our neighborhoods across the city. This housing, affordable housing, that is keeping residents of our city, keeping families in Boston, nurturing our future leaders. I got to meet some of them with Pedro just a couple weeks ago, giving their presentations at the end of their summer youth program here. I would put up the talent here against any part of the world. What is possible here, what happens here is possible because 5 decades ago, people came together to fight, to organize, and to take action all along the way.
What is your plan?
Yeah. Okay. So the question was about what is the plan for Melnia Cass and Mass Ave? And it comes from someone who has invested so much in our communities as a restaurant owner, as a community leader, as a connector. What we see not too far from here is a failing of government, a feeling that you get that we have given up as a society when we see the overlap of substance use, our housing crisis, and mental health. We need, like we've been talking about all morning, to believe that more is possible and take action. When I have walked with residents and patients in the area near Mass Ave and Melnia Cass Boulevard, I hear about the cycles that people are living through, that you can get in treatment, you can be on a good path, but if you still don't have a safe roof over your head, it is nearly impossible to get on a pathway to build a new life. I've already begun working and having conversations with community health centers across the city for how we expand access to treatment and do so immediately. I've already begun working and having conversations about how underutilized city property, city buildings that we already have could be that supportive housing that is immediately retrofit and built and provides relief. And most of all, I've been pushing Boston to use the resources that we've been tying up in conversations about what is too far away. 6 years talking about a bridge in the ocean controlled by another city that would cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Let's activate that funding, put it to retrofitting spaces in our city, activate ferry service to the island, and move now, not 10 years from now. Thank you so much, everyone.
Can you roll